point made was that virtual attacks are below the threshold of concern, and no direct correlation is anticipated to evolve into a physical threat, regardless of the data proving otherwise. So when physical threats do occur, there's limited recourse that influencers can take. So let's start talking about what needs to be changed. If you were given a magic gavel or the key to the internet or whatever, what changes would you make in the way that these types of streamer creator platforms are run in terms of feedback, accessibility, et cetera, to reduce the amount of harm that can be volleyed at these types of creators? Is there a way of making this safer while still retaining the accessibility? You mentioned blockchain and you mentioned like micropayments for comments and things. Do you, from a purely security perspective, do you have any other sort of things that you would like to see happen either at a legal level or procedural level?
Yeah, I think, again, we haven't, I actually think there are some technological innovations, obviously mentioned blockchain, that might be interesting in the future, but frankly, policy, law, and the capabilities of those things combined could make a difference right now. I'll give you an example. In sports, I'm as you mentioned in my intro, in particular, a soccer fan, and it's been a serious problem during the pandemic that soccer players moved into the influencer status. So without crowds in stadiums, they essentially became virtual characters. Now, one of the downsides for this was a real spike in racist abuse against Black players in certain leagues, and there is laws in those countries, certainly the country I'm from, Britain, against hate speech and against racist speech. And once the law enforcement agencies were tasked with tracking those people down who were pouring racist abuse onto players, they make arrests. It's against the law. Now, and so, to go back to the arc of this conversation in some ways, there's 20 years of people have had 20-year careers in like the FBI in America now and have just done counterterrorism. And for the past 10 years, they could have been doing something else, because in my view, I think, there's some changes that need to happen in sort of resources there, because the laws, it's a little trickier in America, given the freedom of speech controls here, and there's no hate speech laws and things like that. But there's still policy law can catch up to the vitriol poured out onto the internet and can make certain kinds of things unacceptable, and people can be prosecuted for them. So I don't think that's impossible. Certainly violent sexual threats aimed at influencers, people making those on the internet should be prosecuted and caught up with. And I think the technical capability exists to do that. And it's just a question of policy and political will to go and do it. There are issues in this country around the political will to go and do that. I don't think, if you look at Europe, that definitely isn't the case. And some prosecutions are starting now against people that made online racist abuse against prominent sports people. So there is a contrast there. The other countries show this can be done with policy and law. It doesn't necessarily, you don't have to throw your hands up and say, "Oh, it's just the internet. We can't do anything about it." The internet is
We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
And interestingly, actually, when fans were allowed back into stadiums in the UK, the controversy still exists around racism in the grounds and things, but then the weight of opprobrium against the racists in the ground, 50,000 people disagree with racism, 10 want to be racist. That weight changes it again. Whereas you get outsized influence for outrageous comments on the internet than you would in real space. So it is different.
I'm excited to announce that our Infosec skills platform will be releasing a new challenge every month with 3 hands-on labs to put your cyber skills to the test. Each month, you'll build new skills ranging from secure coding to penetration testing to advanced persistent threats and everything in between. Plus, we're giving away more than $1,000 worth of prizes each month. Go to infosecinstitute.com/challenge and start your challenge right now.